If you're enjoying this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. We need you here. All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to Comic Artist Pro Secrets. You're listening to me, Ethan Van Sciver, 29-year veteran of the comic book industry. 2 of those years, I think, I spent working for Marvel Comics somewhere between 2002 2003. I drew new X-Men for them and created quite a few characters that are in use right now that you may have heard of. We're going to talk about one of them right here in relation to this article, and I'm going to tell you how Marvel Comics got over on me, too. It's going to be fun. But before we do that, please take a minute. Newbies here, people who are just listening to me for the first time, would you mind hitting that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications? Really appreciate you. We need you here. We need you to join this channel. We are still shadow banned by YouTube's algorithm and hidden from unsubscribed viewers. So regulars, do like you always do. Please like, share this video, and always leave me comments. I read every single comment and hopefully respond to some of the interesting questions that you leave behind. And now on with the show. So we got two we got 2 articles in the Hollywood Reporter, and I gotta laugh only because I talk about how the mainstream comic book industry absolutely exploits the lifeblood of all of its creative people. And once you recognize that, once you realize that you're in a situation where you're signing over a contract, you're spending all of your youth, and I did. I mean, I worked at DC Comics and Marvel Comics from the age of like 20 to the age of 40. I really gave away a lot of my time, a lot of my creative energy. I signed it over, completely to both of these companies in exchange for a small paycheck. And that's basically what happens. They give you scripts, they ask you to create things, they ask you to design things, and to tell stories. That's part of your job as a comic book artist or a comic book writer, and they own it. I mean, as soon as you sign your voucher agreement to accept your page rate in exchange for the artwork that you're producing or the stories that you're producing, they own everything that you give them, that you draw on their paper, that you turn over to them. All of these characters, they own it. It is a raw deal. It is an awful deal because these companies are owned by huge corporations that are able to exploit your creations, the characters that you create for them, the locales that you design, and all of this, the villains, the heroes. They all end up in movies and generate sometimes billions and billions of dollars, and you you get a pittance. Now, DC Comics recognized a while ago, to their credit, that this was exploitation, and it is very much exploitation. The entire comic book industry has been built on just exploiting creative people and stealing from them. And so, DC Comics instituted a fairly good incentive program called character equity. They have character equity royalties, and they want to make it clear, DC wants to make it clear, that they are gifting you. This is a gift, okay? This is just an incentive for you to continue to create for us. Thanks very much. It's a little discretionary bonus here. It's not anything that you are owed. But, so we can take it away at any time. But sign this contract here with us, and we're going to promise. It's going to be kind of like a gentleman's agreement that we are going to pay you whenever these characters that you create appear in the media, in video games, movies, television, toys, anything like that. We're going to make sure that you receive a little bit of a paycheck for it. Now, that's very kind, and I will tell you that my experience, the overwhelming majority of my time was spent at DC Comics creating, Atrocitus. I created Atrocitus, Saint Walker, Larfleeze. I created a lot of Flash villains with Jeff Johns. Iron Heights Penitentiary I created and own a little stake in. That's why I received an enormous check for the Justice League movie. Both of them, both versions of the Justice League movie, because they used Iron Heights Penitentiary in those movies. That's where Barry Allen's father was being held up. And I got paid for that. It was great. However, I also experienced the other end of that, Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics, even though Marvel is owned by Disney, they are notoriously stingy. This is not a place where anybody should ever create anything new. If you're going to go to Marvel Comics with the idea that you are going to draw Spider-Man, you're going to draw the X-Men. do not offer these people any new creations at all. If you're hoping to make money from those creations, don't do it because they will exploit you. Now, right here, you got a very sad story here. July 2021, Scarlett Johansson stunned Hollywood with a lawsuit. It's Disney's breach of contract for sending Black Widow to HBO Max. No, to Disney Plus. I'm sorry, Disney Plus. And instead of a theatrical release, since she was actually due to get some royalties based on how big that movie's launch was, how big the release was, this was obviously a terrible thing for her. But that's nothing. That's obviously, that was out in public. That really doesn't concern us. She's already a millionaire. There were two other people who worked in comics. Oh, I feel so bad about this. The only reason I'm laughing about it is because it happened to me too. Okay, so because it happened to me too, I feel like I'm not mocking them. I'm sort of like commiserating with them. Okay, you got Devin Grayson and artist J.G. Jones. Devin Grayson, really pretty good writer. J.G. Jones, fantastic artist, really nice guy. They created a character called Yelena Belova. I'm not sure who that is. Played by Florence Pugh. Now, I imagine that Yelena Belova had a pretty big role in the Black Widow movie. Now, they signed the same contract that I did. When you create a new character for Marvel Comics or DC Comics that they plan to actually use at some point, they will send you a little contract that says character equity agreement. And in it, there is a list of percentages and things that you can expect to receive under certain circumstances if your character gets used in media. At DC, it's also if your character gets used in other comic books, which is really fun. I just got a royalty check with character equity payments for comic book appearances of Atrocitus, right? And Atrocitus is like, frankly, Atrocitus should be 100% mine, but I share him with Jeff. Jeff has created a bunch of characters that he did more of the work than I did, but we 50-50 all of these characters. When Atrocitus appears in other comics, I receive 6 cents. And you can kind of go, oh, that's 6 cents, that's absurd. But it's something. I'm grateful for it. Thank you for paying attention to that. When Atrocitus appears in a lot of comics, it does add up. I mean, 6 cents, I guess, is just, well, I mean, thanks. I appreciate it. But when Atrocitus appears in movies, TV, video games, Atrocitus was in the Lego video game, and I will tell you, the royalty check that I received for Atrocitus being in that Lego video game was 5 figures. And it was a pretty good 5-figure check for that. And that's amazing, all right? And Marvel, it's a little bit different. They sit there, they told me the same thing that they told Devin Grayson and J.G. Jones. I created a character named Angel Salvatore, who is called Angel. She is a person of color who has insect wings, and she's a mutant, okay? She was played in X-Men First Class by Zoe Kravitz. A young Zoe Kravitz played my character that I share with Grant Morrison. Now, at the time that X-Men First Class came out, was over the moon over the fact that one of my characters was being used in a movie. I'd signed a contract. I was ready to go. I was ready to receive what the contract said. And the contract did stipulate $25,000 for a movie appearance. Holy cow. That was life-changing money. A $25,000 check all at once would have been fantastic. It would have really made my life, my family's life easier. And so we sat there and we waited for the $25,000 check, just like Devin Grayson and J.G. Jones appeared to have. But when the check finally came, it was not $25,000. When Grayson and Jones, Devin Grayson and J.G. Jones, who created Yelena in 1999, eventually received payment in November, that they were expecting $25,000 each. They got $5,000 each without explanation. No explanation. No way to make sense of that. Now, I will tell you, I would have been happy with $5,000. I received $900 for Angel appearing in X-Men First Class. Absolutely ridiculous. And I had to fight for it. I had to write all of these emails back and forth to Marvel Comics and say, where are my royalties? Where's my $25,000? Like, where is it? And they put me off and put me off and put me off. Finally, I guess they agreed that they owed me something, and they sent me a check for $900. Grayson has spent the past year seeking an answer in a journey that sheds light on how Marvel compensates the comic book writers and artists behind the characters fueling the most successful film franchise in history. Those who work with the company describe a labyrinthine system that leaves creators wondering how Marvel arrived at the figures. Now, that is correct. I went to them and I said, wait a second, this doesn't look like a $25,000 check. And they explained to me that the reason why it was only $900 was because the movie wasn't called Angel. The movie needed to be called Angel. And she needed to be featured in the movie, like the main character, in order for me to collect the $25,000. And she was just a kind of background character. She was just in the movie, and therefore, this is all I get. Didn't say that in the contract. Didn't express that. I would have expected $900, and I would have been happy with that. The contract didn't say that at all. This was a complete surprise to me. But by the way, if it was a movie called Angel, if it was an entire film based around my character, you mean I could only expect $25,000 for that? Don't you think it should have been more? Like, if it's the character that I created, and she is the star and the title character of the movie, that means the most that you can expect as a creative person working for Marvel Comics under the most optimum situations. For example, Todd McFarlane, creator of Venom. Venom gets a movie. Todd McFarlane gets a check for $25,000. Sony, Marvel, receives whatever that movie made. I mean, probably what did Venom make? Probably made something like $1 billion. Todd McFarlane gets $25,000. That's hardly an incentive to kind of open up your mind and slave over pages to create things for a big corporation, but we should know better than that. So the agreement, signed in 2007, seemed to state that Grayson would receive $25,000 for a theatrical film appearance, $2,000 for an episode of TV over 30 minutes, $1,000 for an episode of TV 30 minutes or less. Action figures, this is great. $5,000 for one action figure, $10,000 for two, $25,000 for three or more. Video games, maximum of $30,000 pot to be shared among all. This is garbage. Like, these numbers are garbage. I'll take that $5,000 for an action figure, though. Buried in the document was language that granted Marvel broad discretion to dramatically lower payments. Nobody reads that language. Language Grayson and others who spoke to THR say is misleading, given that the $25,000 is listed prominently in the paperwork. That is correct. So, this is the way Marvel works, and it is every incentive, there's every actual incentive to not work for Marvel. Oh my gosh! I mean, look, at least you're not poor Jim Starlin. Jim Starlin, I mean, look, they're talking about creating kind of a B-list character for a movie like Black Widow that didn't even make that much money. Jim Starlin created Thanos, who is the linchpin of, like, the Avengers franchise, the entire thing. He is the main villain. He was a star in at least two of the biggest movies that the MCU put out. And this guy was also robbed. This guy should be. Here's the thing, in my opinion, when you're a creative person who creates something like Thanos, and Thanos makes its way into a movie that makes several. I mean, the movie franchise that makes several $1 billion, you should be set. That's when your ship comes in, and I don't know anybody who would disagree with that. Jim Starlin should have been paid $10 million at least for Thanos, with everything combined, everything that Thanos, and that's on the low end. This man should be a multi-millionaire right now, kicking his feet up, enjoying a nice margarita somewhere on the beach, and just glad that he spent his youth creating a character like Thanos. Finally, his ship came in. But no, Marvel is going to keep this guy working. They cheated him, in my opinion. And he was paid almost nothing for Thanos. Isn't that incredible? He created a character called KG Beast that had a minuscule appearance in Batman v Superman, and DC took better care of him. DC paid him more for his character's appearance. KG Beast, do you even remember seeing KG Beast? Paid him more for that tiny appearance in a DC Warner Brothers DCEU bomb. Sorry, Batman v Superman was largely a critical misfire. Than for his work on Thanos at the MCU. And that is the way it goes, folks. Now, who do we blame for this? Well, I mean, yeah, like be forewarned. When you are a young person and your aspirations are to go and work for a big corporation like Disney, Marvel, or Warner Brothers, DC Comics, understand that it literally is exploitation. You'll notice I'm not laughing anymore. The more I think about this, the more angry I kind of get. So that's it. I could talk about this all day long. I really could. It's a disgusting topic, and I feel bad for everybody who gets wrapped up in this. $25,000 is absolutely nothing for Disney, and they should be taking care of their creative people much more substantially than this. Knowing that $25,000 could be heading your way is every reason for a lot of young creative people to create things for Disney. They should be incentivizing young creators this way. At this point, I would say nobody create anything for these people ever. Just don't do it. It doesn't make any financial sense. Create for yourself. Own your own stuff. Don't sell your stuff. Work for you and your own family and your fans. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching. Please do speaking of my own stuff, back CyberFrog 2 Wreck Planet. The link's in the description below. It is the second issue of the CyberFrog franchise. There are also links below so that you can catch up with the story very easily. And I'm excited about it. Can't wait for you to read it. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you again soon with another video. Hello, Indiegogo backers. CyberFrog 2 Wreck Planet Second Chance campaign is live on Indiegogo right now, just in time to join the fight for independent comics. We need your support. Back it today. Links in the description below. The All Caps Comics eBay store is live for all of your non-soy comic book needs. Whether it's CyberFrog, Starblades, or Rainbow the Brute, ask for it in all caps. Check out the link in the description below. Hey, come follow me on Twitter, @EthanVanSkyver.